everybody, it's Emily bringing you another Grass River microclass. So I have some friends with me today, and obviously you can probably guess what today's class is going to be about. We are going to be talking about the owls that live here at Grass River. We'll talk about where they live, what kind of habitat. We'll talk about what they look like, how to identify them, and we'll talk about how to identify them based on their calls, and we'll listen to their calls because they're nocturnal mostly, so we don't always see them, but we hear them a lot. All right, let's get started. All right, so here we have our first owl. This is a great horned owl. You can see that it's overall mottled, kind of grayish brown, often has like a white throat patch right here. Large tufts. These are just feathers. There's no, like, they're not actually, horns like the great horned owl's name suggests. Just feathers, no bones or anything. And large yellow eyes. And this is the biggest owl, our biggest resident owl that hangs out here all year round. And what's really neat about these owls is they live all across North America, for everywhere from like the tundra of boreal Canada to the desert, down to the tropical rainforest of Mexico. So they're very adaptable, but around here, we usually find them in younger woods interspersed with fields. So they can have access to their favorite prey, rabbits. And this guy has a very distinctive call as well. It's four or five notes, and it's kind of a stuttering, very deep hooting. So let's listen for that. So going down slightly in size, we have our barred owl. So a little bit smaller than the great horned owl, but still a relatively large owl. And you can notice that its head is round, so no ear tufts. And it gets its name, the barred owl, from the barring markings on its chest. They're horizontal, and on the belly they're vertical. And this is our only owl here with dark eyes. They're actually dark brown, but they often appear pretty much black. And these owls are denizens of wet woods. So we find them in our cedar swamp a lot here, but really they live in any woods that are near water. Because their main prey base are small mammals, but they also will take frogs, occasionally even fish, crayfish, things like that. And these guys have probably the most distinctive owl call in the eastern forests, in the eastern US at least. It's the 8-note, "Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all?" And in the breeding season, males and females will duet that kind of together, but also intersperse it with these crazy cackles and gurgles and things that don't even sound like an owl. And these guys are very vocal because they are very territorial. And like all birds, one of the main functions of their song is to defend their territories. So now we're getting into the smaller owls that we have here year-round in northern Michigan. This is an eastern screech owl, very small. You can see it has ear tufts like the great horned and yellow eyes like the great horned owl, but much smaller. And what's interesting about this species is that they come in two different color morphs. The gray morph, which this one is, and then the red morph, which is kind of like a ruddy, rusty red color. And these owls will really live anywhere there are trees, deciduous, coniferous, doesn't really matter. They just really rely on trees to nest in the cavities. And their call is really neat. It's kind of otherworldly, but they have two main calls. The first one is, it's called the whinnying call, and it sounds like a whinnying horse. Or I think sometimes like a witch laughing or a woman laughing really shrilly. And then they also have the bouncing call that sounds like a bouncing ball being dropped. It's very hollow and it kind of speeds up as it goes. So we'll listen to both of those. So last but not least, we have our northern saw-whet owl, and unfortunately I don't have a mount of this one, but you can see it in the photo. And I should say that this owl, there's not really a clear consensus on how it got named the saw-whet owl, but one theory is that somebody thought that one of their calls sounded like sharpening a saw on a wedding stone. But that's just a theory. Nobody really knows. So as you can see, they're really small, even smaller than the screech owl that we just looked at, so tiny. But they have kind of an oversized head for their body and also oversized feet. And they're kind of mottled brown with a white face, bright yellow eyes, and their feet are also bright orange. So I think this is subjectively the cutest owl that we have, but they're super ferocious, so don't let that fool you. And these ones live anywhere that there's really dense tree cover, so really dense forests, and their call is a little bit comical. I think it kind of sounds like this world's smallest semi-truck backing up. It's like a series of toots that goes, it's like 2 per second, and it can go on for like a minute or more. So let's listen for that right now. So that's all for the resident owls we have here, the ones that hang out here all year round. But we do occasionally get short-eared and long-eared owls breeding up here. And then sometimes snowy owls and very occasionally northern hawk owls will come down from their more northern range in the winter looking for food. And then lastly, one of the other owls you might be familiar with, the barn owl, which is different than a barred owl, a barn owl. They do live in Michigan, but only in southern Michigan. They really prefer large, wide open fields, so they like the agricultural regions down there. So thanks for joining me on this microclass on a topic that I get very excited about. I love owls. And I hope you all have a great week. And next week, stay tuned because we'll have a guest host, Arlene, another one of our naturalists here who will be leading us on a microclass about fungi. So until then, bye everybody.